Wyoming, we care about our kids and communities. We believe that protecting our youth and keeping them safe and healthy is a top priority.
There's no debate of what change has happened to the marijuana and the impact that it's having on families for those who are involved in the marijuana lifestyle. The marijuana of today is different than marijuana that we've seen for years. The potency's changed, the frequency's changed, the amount of folks involved in it, the usage, the patterns, the destruction to families, the destruction to youth. It's all changed from what we knew of marijuana just a few short years ago.
It has been pretty exciting to see communities sort of rally around providing education to parents, especially as it relates to how much marijuana has changed, the different ways that it's ingested, as well as what its harmful effects are. And so just like with anything else, as something new kind of comes on the scene, we need to take a little time to learn about what it's about and what the harmful effects are. Oftentimes people think, when you think about marijuana or you think about weed, you're thinking of the ditchweed of the 70s, and there's a real clear distinction between the marijuana then and the marijuana now. There's even a clear distinction between the marijuana 5 or 10 years ago and the marijuana now.
In the last 20 years, we have witnessed a drastic increase in the overall potency of marijuana. Today, there are more options than ever before for means of consumption, including indistinguishable edibles.
Marijuana now, in the leaf form, the plant form, can be 4 to 5 times more potent than it was, say, in the Woodstock era. The big danger in all of this, of course, pertaining to kids and even adults, is just those extremely high THC levels. It seems that when people discuss marijuana, they discuss the Woodstock 70s era marijuana with the extremely low THC levels. Now, that being said, if you had THC levels that were in the single digits or the low teens, and now you're talking about shatters, waxes, edibles, you start talking 90 percentile THC, and we were already saying it's dangerous.
If you had asked me 10 years ago, is marijuana addictive? I'd have said no. Because the THC potential in it was maybe 10 to 14%. Now, we're looking at pot that's 40, 50, up to 90%. That is addictive. That's a whole different substance than what we're used to dealing with. So we know what the lethal dose is, we know what the effective dose is, and we know what the therapeutic dose is. So when your doctor prescribes Vicodin 20 tablets at X amount of milligrams to take 1 every 4 hours, we know exactly how much Vicodin you're getting. And we know how long it should last, and we know what the effects should be, we know what the side effects will be, we know about when it's going to wear off and when you need to take another one. If they prescribe THC to you, we can't do that yet. We don't have that research that tells us. So until we have that, then it's dangerous. Okay, I think people that prescribe medical marijuana ought to be licensed medical professionals with the same training that everyone who prescribes medicine is, not just someone who hangs a shingle up. We don't let psychologists prescribe medication because they don't have all the training a medical doctor has. But we're letting people in other states prescribe medical marijuana with virtually no education, no specific training, so they know what are the side effects, what are the unintended consequences, how much is going to lead to overdose.
My kids go into school to become a pharmacist, and to me, that's where you go get your medicine. Doctor has to take you and give you a prescription. You go to your pharmacist, they count it out, and you get your 30 days worth.
At a low level, let's say 35% THC, which would be a very high percentage of THC in a marijuana cigarette. Now you're talking 9 times, 10 times more THC in those levels. What do you think the level is going to be of safety for an adolescent? What do you think that's going to do for their IQ? And the addiction level, again, THC is addictive at high levels. There's no debate about that. They have proven that at high levels, THC is addictive.
What I've noticed is that society in general has pretty much accepted the idea that drinking and driving is a bad idea, even though people still do it and people still die from impaired alcohol driving. With cannabis, it seems like especially youth and society in general has somewhat of a cavalier attitude towards it. Just because a substance hasn't caused a death doesn't mean that it's okay to be impaired on it and drive down the highway. So because of that cavalier attitude, people are much more likely, I think, to get behind the wheel after they've been smoking a cannabis product than they are as if they've had several mixed drinks. So it's an attitude shift that needs to come where people get the idea that it's just impaired driving, period. Doesn't matter what you're doing, is a bad idea.
When we undertook a larger role in marijuana education, it had always been there in terms of an illicit drug and working on. Our involvement with the DARE program, for example, has its roots well over 20 years ago, dealing with drug education efforts by the sheriffs and chiefs to the public. But when we recognize that the marijuana has changed and what is happening today, needed to ramp up those education efforts.
Now, as part of the DARE program, we discuss, of course, use of alcohol by minors is illegal. We discuss that use of tobacco by minors is illegal, and what the harmful effects are. What there seems to be a real miscommunication on is the harmful effects of marijuana, specifically on children. Okay, one of the misconceptions is that marijuana is no worse than tobacco. It's no worse than smoking a cigarette. What isn't out there is the truth is that marijuana contains all of the carcinogens that tobacco does. So smoking it isn't any better for you than smoking a cigarette. And everybody has been educated for years and years of the dangers of smoking tobacco. Of course, you have THC in marijuana. You have the drug nicotine in tobacco. What they don't understand is that THC, the intoxicant in that, is extremely harmful to adolescents. It affects them, drops their IQ. There is no safe level. First off, there is absolutely no safe level for adolescents, for children, of marijuana use because of the THC. There are some studies that have found a poor outcome for the use of marijuana 50 times in their life. Now, if you think about 50 times in your life, that's just one marijuana joint per month during your high school years. Educate yourself. Get the actual facts of what is going on. And there are really good studies now coming out of the state of Colorado. This has been legal down there long enough that there is really, really good information on there. Get the facts. Don't take what general society is putting out there as being a positive negative. With kids, our children are our future. They are way too important for us to just go out there and take word of mouth as being the truth. Educate yourself, learn, understand the dangers of marijuana, THC, to your kids.
Anything that causes people to have their judgment impaired is not a good thing for kids. It's not a good thing for society. So people often think of drug use as a victimless crime when in fact that's not true. When people are inebriated from any kind of drug, it means the kids are not being well taken care of. It means they're making choices about getting in a car when they shouldn't. It means lots of things. And so I view it as teaching people about making good choices that result in healthy kids, healthy families, safe communities.
States that have legalized marijuana have seen an increase in impaired driving, crime, and youth hospital visits for accidental ingestion. There is no debate. In Wyoming, we care about our kids and communities. We want what is best for our state and will work to educate parents and teens on the dangers and health consequences of marijuana usage.